It's like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm not used to filming at 11 o'clock at night, especially not when there are people sleeping beside me, in the room beside me. So this is very odd. I'm not used to this, but we're gonna try it out, even though I was supposed to film this video 3 hours ago. Hey guys, it's Julia. So today we are going to be talking about trilogies, which seems to be a cause of controversy here on BookTube and in the book community. Some people love trilogies and always read trilogies. Trilogies are their favorite things ever, and some people absolutely hate trilogies and do not like the way they are written and do not like them. Personally, I am a bit of both on this whole trilogy hierarchy thing. There are points about trilogies that I like and that I don't like. So there are pros and cons. For example, they are shorter than a series, but they are longer than a standalone novel or a duology, which makes them very appealing because people don't always want to start a series, because when you start a series it feels like a really big commitment. Say if you're starting the Harry Potter series, which is 7 books, or the Mortal Instruments series, which is 6 books, and they're not small books either, so it seems like a really big commitment, and some people just don't want to do that for some form of enjoyment. They don't want that much thought process and time invested in this type of thing, so they enjoy a trilogy. A trilogy feels like you're reading more than a standalone and a duology, because you are, but also sometimes standalones can feel like you read something, but then at the same time you don't feel as accomplished because you feel like, oh, I just read one book. And same with the duology. It's like, okay, I read 2 books. So there's something about the number 3, the magic number of 3 books, that seems to appeal to a lot of people and make you feel like you're reading just the right amount of book. However, there are definitely some cons to this. I find that a lot of authors seem to write trilogies just because that seems to be what's in demand at the moment. A lot of people obviously love trilogies and are very attracted to trilogies for the reasons I mentioned before. Obviously authors want to sell books, so they're like, oh, we're going to release a trilogy, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Not to say that all trilogies are awful, but some are very much storylines that could have been used in a standalone or a duology, but they were dragged on just to be called a trilogy and to be sold and advertised as a trilogy. Some books can just stay in one book. Like, I don't mind if a storyline ends, if it was a solid story, I enjoyed it, it has, you know, good elements to it. If it's just one book, that's fine. I might wish there was more, but then if there was too much more, then sometimes I get sick of it. Sometimes it's just too much, and sometimes 3 books is just too long to be dragging out the same idea over and over and over again. However, on the opposite side of that, there is sometimes trilogies that could be more than a trilogy. For example, the Hunger Games trilogy definitely could have been 4 books instead of 3, because I personally believe that Mockingjay, which is an amazing book, I loved it, could have been split into 2 books, because there is so much that happens in that book, and there's so much that could have been expanded on more in that book, that it could have created 2 books instead of just the one. Another good thing about trilogies is you can get more character development and plot development than in a standalone or duology, which is good if you are reading a book and the character doesn't seem to be really developing that much, or plot seems kind of flat. If you have a trilogy, then you can be like, okay, maybe the second book it'll spike and we'll get a climax to this whole series, whereas if you're reading just a standalone or a duology, you just kind of are like, where's this going? I don't know how much more I have to read, you know, where is this going? Not to say that some standalones don't peak at like the very end. Like, I read books where that has happened, but it is kind of unusual and I'm not really used to that. Another thing about trilogies is that movie franchises seem to love trilogies. They love the whole, oh, 3 movie deal, you know, we have all this story and we have years of work that we can do and we have this way to advertise, like this is part 1 and part 2 and part 3. However, movie industries also seem to be following the fad of making a 4th movie out of a trilogy. For example, the Hunger Games trilogy once again have the 1st movie and the 2nd movie, and then they have the 3rd book is being divided into 2 movies, which is interesting because a lot of the people involved in the fandom really wanted Mockingjay to be divided into 2 books, so they're dividing into 2 movies, so I'm very excited to see the second part of that and see what they're going to put into that. 4th movie is a good thing for revenue and it's a good thing for advertising. However, it cannot always be a good thing for the trilogy, because if you have a trilogy that seems to be drawing on and on when you're reading it, and then you add a 4th movie, another unneeded movie on top of that, you have to wonder, what are they going to do with the storyline that is going to take up an hour and a half, 2 hours, 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 and when you're reading it, you're already feeling like the plot is just being too drawn out. They're going to draw out it more in the movies, so you have to wonder why a 4th part is needed. After saying all this, after talking about all this controversy with trilogies, I do have to say I absolutely love trilogies most of the time. I have not come across a lot of trilogies that I don't like. I've heard of some and I've kind of avoided them, but most trilogies that I've read, I've really genuinely enjoyed, and some of my favorite books are trilogies. For example, the Hunger Games trilogy by Suzanne Collins, the Selection trilogy by Kiera Cass, and the Mara Dyer trilogy by Michelle Hodkin. I absolutely love those books, and I don't want it to seem like I don't like trilogies. Obviously there are a lot of elements to trilogies that are very controversial, but I personally enjoy them. So yeah, I just felt the need to make this video because I was thinking a lot about trilogies, and I just wanted to put this out there and see what your guys' opinions are on trilogies. I know some people hate them, some people love them. What do you guys think? So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any opinions or questions on this video, please leave them down below. I would love to get feedback from you all, and I hope you guys are having an amazing day. I love you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!